Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and tonight we are going to be unboxing a plethora of Aeldari items. We have the new codex. All of these items, officially at the time of the release of this video, will be available for pre-order. At the time of filming, however, it is actually the weekend before. So we're going to go ahead and get this opened up, and then we will be doing a written article discussing these items as well as our thoughts on them. Now, I won't have a lot of insight there on, Aeldari in the past, simply because I have never played Aeldari, or even back when they used to be called Eldar. So this will definitely be a very new experience for me. But between these and the Eldritch Omens box, definitely have enough Aeldari to get me started. Now, I know that they recently announced the new sculpt for the Avatar of Khaine. That model looks absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm assuming that the Khaine that the can't remember what they're called off the top of my head right now all of a sudden, but basically the Dark Elves. Can't remember what their name got changed to for Age of Sigmar, but I'm assuming that the Khaine that they've always worshipped is going to be the same one as the Aeldari. So my guess is that model might work as like a dual model that you can use between the two. And I am predicting that we are going to be seeing the battle tome for that group coming soon. I know that they've already announced the Fire Slayers and the Idoneth Deepkin as the next ones that are coming out. And we do know that we're going to be doing another Order and I believe Chaos one to follow, but they haven't said specifically which ones. But I digress. So let's get back to what's on hand. So again, Aeldari, we have new Guardians, we have new Dark Reapers, new Warlocks, and new character model, Maugan Ra. And now, one thing I always thought was kind of interesting is the sculpts for the Dark Reapers. Like, I know that they've always been Eldar or Aeldari as far as those models in general, but they have a very distinctive look that always made me think that they fit more with the Drukhari or Dark Eldar. So we're actually going to go ahead and open them first. Now, my normal knife is actually sitting at the other end of the room, and my microphone will not reach that far without actually disconnecting from everything. So we are going to steal my 6-year-old scissors to do our openings this week. Starting with the Dark Reapers. Now, from what I understand, these are entirely new sculpts. Actually, all 4 boxes are entirely new from my understanding. We've had Dark Reapers in the past. I know we've had the Guardians in the past, but these are new versions of them, which, from what I understand, it's been a long time coming because I don't believe most of those models have changed much, really in the last 10 or so years. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, one thing I noticed right off the bat is we do kind of have like a little statue type thing. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. I know that we had one of those also in the Eldritch Omens box, and I don't remember any Dark Reapers in there. So this might be something that is used maybe as a like an objective marker when you're playing Aeldari. Now we have our we have our rule book, or not our rule book, but our assembly guide, and definitely looks a lot more straightforward than the old Dark Reapers, because I have built Aeldari models before, and specifically did build some Guardians and some Dark Reapers before, but these instructions are much more straightforward, a lot easier to understand. And right off the bat, I do see that we do have some alternative heads in here as well. So that way, if you wanted to kind of change the lookup, or if you got 2 boxes of these, not all your models are going to be exactly the same. But I do love the multi-tone assembly guide that they do with the newer models, especially like where they show right here with the alternative weapons that you can choose. So that way you see exactly, you know, how it's going to look with each one. So like for me, when I'm building an army that I've never played before, I typically build the look and then later figure out, you know, which weapon is going to be better for me to use in play. And then, you know, if it comes down to it, like, oh crap, I picked the wrong weapon, then, you know, later on I would get another box and build those ones with the correct weapon, and then just have this squad, you know, using the other weapon choice. And then on the back we have our just very basic stat guide. Obviously the more detailed version is going to be in the codex. Now, one thing I have to say about this codex is we've done many codices. I'm pretty sure it's codices for 40k, and then battle tomes for Age of Sigmar, and by far, other than the new rule books that we've got with new editions, this is the biggest, thickest book that we've seen for a single army. So we have one transfer sheet, and some of these look really cool. I really like this one that's kind of got the yin yang in it. Almost looks like a Reaper blade in the middle of it as well. It depends on the angle that you're doing it. In some angles it looks like wings. But there are some really cool looking emblems, especially this group right here. I don't know the significance of each one, and I'm willing to bet that, you know, you guys probably know more about them than I do, because like I said, I have never really been an Eldar or Eldari player, but definitely looking forward to give these guys a shot, especially with some of the new stuff that we've been seeing. And I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot more new stuff from them, because like I said, it's been quite a while since we've really seen new stuff from them, other than I believe it was called the Triumvirate, which I know that they're re-releasing at the same time as these releases. So if you weren't able to get them before, you can go ahead and order the new kit. Now, looking at the models themselves, they're not as detailed as some of the other models we've seen. But it generally fits the overall aesthetic. You know, they're not all about, you know, extra iconography. They're not about, you know, severed heads and things like that hanging from them. But one thing I do think is kind of funny looking is like this armor piece and the kind of like the loincloth in front of it. You know, just at a glance, it reminds me of like one of the characters from Dragon Ball Z. I've never watched the show, but I've seen several of the characters before, so I have no idea what the character's name is, but there's one of them, I want to say, like, he's got green skin maybe, and kind of wears the similar type outfit, but this just looks very much like my memory of that character's outfit to me. Neither good or bad, but just an observation. Now, I mean, we do have a good amount of detail. One thing I do find really odd, though, is that we have 1 foot for the bodies, and, you know, it's replicated multiple times. And, I mean, right here, it could have easily just extended out off the front. Not really sure why they chose to separate that. My guess is to maybe give you a little bit more posability, like for the ankles, to make it look like maybe they're jumping or like mid-stride or something. But it definitely is an odd choice, in my opinion. But looking at some of the heads, like the one that was shown before is an alternative. I mean, the detail on there's a lot more detail on the faces than there are on most of the other parts of the model. And then that kind of statue looking piece that could be for an objective marker of some sort. I do like the detail on that. It looks very much like a Grim Reaper. Let's see if it gives us any detail on what it is. So it doesn't say there, so let's check the box. Okay, so it doesn't actually say there. So maybe the Aeldari Codex might tell us what those are for. So go ahead and set these aside. Next, we're going to look at that Moagan Ra, probably butchering his name. Now, just looking at the back, I mean, this guy looks really awesome. I mean, he looks like he could easily be converted into a necromancer of some sort. Just, you know, so obviously would need to swap out his gun or modify it a little bit because it does kind of have that Reaper blade on the end. All right, so it's just the one sprue in here, but we have a ton more detail, like on his back plate. He's got a really cool looking robe with a lot of detail there with the kind of holes and wear and tear in there. And like the base pieces, lots of detail. I mean, we have a human skeleton laying there, some runes etched into what kind of looks like a piece of a broken webway gate. But I mean, by far, this is one of the most detailed Aeldari pieces I've ever seen, and just looks absolutely fantastic. I am going to look forward to painting this guy. Even if I don't make any modifications, I mean, he looks like he's gonna be a lot of fun to paint. And then we have our assembly guide, very straightforward. And it looks like his ranged attack is up to 36 inches, if I'm reading that right. So very impressive range. I mean, it does look like he's carrying a giant sniper rifle with a kind of a scythe blade on the end of it. But he is a truly awesome looking character. Like I said, I am very much looking forward to building him. Now with this box, the two Aeldari Warlocks, with these, when they were first announced, to me, the pictures that we saw looked very much like they were, you know, the same starting body, and then just different arms and heads. So I'm pleased to see that this Warlock's box is actually two separate models instead of one model with two different choices. So we have our assembly guide, you know, just as many pages as the character model. And here, other than head options, it doesn't look like we have many options other than that. Oh, with one of them, you can choose between the sword and the staff. Oh, and it looks like the other one, whichever one you chose gets the sword, the other one gets the staff. But definitely some cool looking models there. I've always enjoyed the leader models and the troop models for the Aeldari, especially the jet bikes. I've loved the look of those for years. The ones that I don't really like is more of the kind of the mech suit type ones. That, I can't remember what they're called. But from what I understand, they're going to be much more powerful in the new codex than they've ever been. Now, this is a single sprue in this box, and these guys do have a lot of detail, a lot more than what we saw in the Dark Reapers. Not nearly as much as we saw on Moagan Ra. And again, don't quote me on the name, I'm probably butchering it. But again, a lot of great detail. I really like this kind of slanted base that they've done with a lot of runes etched in it. Definitely a lot of great detail there. And then Just go ahead and break the seal in the book too at the same time, so that way we can just put the scissors away. All right. And of course, I flipped it around, not realizing it. So the side I opened was not the side I grabbed for. All right, so with the Guardians themselves, I mean, they have been pretty basic for a while. And I won't know the differences offhand between these and previous versions. And in here we do have another transfer sheet. We have our assembly guide with the multi-tones as well. And here we do have some alternative weapons. So I do always enjoy, getting a kit like this where, it's multi-pose for some of them, and then, you have the ability to change the weapon loadouts for either the troops or for the mounted turret that they have. So here are, the four main options that you have. One with actually it doesn't say. So you have the stuff to build, 10 total models from what it looks like. Actually 11 if you include the weapon mount. And then we have our bag of bases. And then with this one, we have 3 sprues. So this one right here is mostly our hand weapons, as well as the weapon platform. And based on look alone, again, don't know anything about the stats or anything yet, but looking at them, there's this one that looks like a railgun and one that looks like a sniper rifle. Based on aesthetics alone, I would probably go with one of those two. And I don't know that I've ever really noticed Aeldari using chainswords before. And 2 of the swords that we have in this kit are chainswords, so that's pretty cool. And then this one looks like the chest and backs, or actually the backs and heads, and most of the body parts, legs and body. So some decent detail here, especially in the faces, because most of these faces do not have helmets. But then we do have variants of them with helmets as well. Then this one right here would be pretty much all of your arms. So we have all the guns, all of the individual arms, arms holding, looks like some sort of charge. And again, you got some decent detail here. This set actually, at least at glance, has a lot more detail than the Dark Reaper set did. But definitely some cool stuff there. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in place so that way we can also film the close-up on them, which you'll see in just a little bit. All right, so this is sprue 1 for the I can't remember what they're called, Dark Reapers, and that is the second sprue. So this is the outfit I was describing that kind of reminded me of a Dragon Ball Z character. These are the first of 3 for the Guardians. So this is the one with the bodies and the heads. Turn it over and you can see the bodies better. The torsos mostly. And then the weapons platform and all of the different hand weapons. These are the 2 new warlocks. Oops. And then our new character model in his awesome detailed glory. time to take a quick look at the codex. Now, one thing that I do like to say is that it's always worthwhile to collect the codices, especially if you plan on playing certain teams regularly. Then those teams you will want to have a codex on hand. One, so that way you can make sure that the person you're playing against is truthful as far as their point value, so they don't aren't playing super underhanded, which I have seen people do before. Or you want to make sure that you get an understanding of their rules and tactics, so that way you can better anticipate and write your list based on what they might be bringing. And so like for instance, if you have a feeling that they're going to be bringing Maogun Ra, you want to make sure that you can plan ahead for something that can combat him specifically. Or if you think that you're going to be fighting a lot of guardians and weapons platforms or a lot of jet bikes, then you definitely might have some different tactics that you'll use to face them. So purchasing the codex just for that is definitely going to be beneficial. Of course, if this is the army that you play, more so, because obviously you want to have the up-to-date rules for your army. And then one thing I've always loved is just the overall artwork that you get in the codices, as well as just the sheer amount of lore, because there's so much background on each of the factions that you couldn't contain all of it in just the general rulebook. And then here we are, a picture of the Avatar of Khaine fighting a Keeper of Secrets, which I know they actually showed that exact image on Warhammer community page. So we're skipping ahead. We've got some details on the Harlequins. Then we have the section that has the Ynnari, which are the Triumvirate, if I remember correctly. We talked about before, those 3 specific models that come together. We have a section about Corsairs, which it was announced that they will be in the next Kill Team release. Then we have Fleets of Infamy, and then colors for some of the different armies, so that way if you want to match a specific one instead of making your own kind of successor chapter, you can. And then I love these multi-page spreads like this. Just so much detail, so much going on. And then we have our rules section, which that starts on page 80. So we had a lot more lore than we usually have right here. About twice as many pages almost. So we're going through the Battleforged rules to start and going over the various craft worlds, and it even gives you an example army as well. Harlequin's detachment abilities, stratagems, Exarch powers, pivotal rules, and we have a relics section, which these appear to be like some specific weapons that you can actually use with your army. These are all under the army section, or army rules section, including warlord traits as well, psychic disciplines. Then we go into the Crusade rules section. A couple of different agendas like Paths of Fate, Fight for the Future, Recover Spirit Stones, A Perfect Rehearsal, Souls for Strength. So out of those, I'm just going to read one of them to you. So recover spirit stones. Every spirit stone recovered for the body of a slain Eldari warrior is a soul denied to she who thirsts. Keep a spirit stones tally for each Asuryani unit from your army. Each time an infantry or biker unit from your army is destroyed, after removing the final model in that unit, place a spirit stone marker as close as possible to that model's location when it was destroyed. Add 1 to a unit's spirit stones tally each time that unit successfully completes their recover spirit stones action, which at the end of your movement phase, 1 unit from your army that's within 3 inches and not within engagement range of any model can start to perform this action. The action is completed at the end of your turn. If completed, add 1 to that unit's spirit stones tally and remove the spirit stone marker from the battlefield. At the end of the battle, each unit gains 1 experience point for every mark on the spirit stones tally. So pretty straightforward. We have a requisition section. So there are things that you can add if you're using any Asuryani or Harlequins units. Then we have Paths of Eldari, specifically Paths of the Warrior, Outcast, and Seer. And then we have our Crusade Army, giving you some examples. So that one was Craft World Uthway. And then we have the Harlequins Crusade Army. Those ones are always looked a lot more fun, on the table anyway. And then we have our data sheets. Specifically starts off with the Avatar of Cain, which, looking at it, so its stats vary depending on how many wounds it has. Starting with movement of 10 inches, like its ballistic skill actually improves as it loses wounds. The attacks decrease with the number of wounds. And its total wounds start at 14. So between 8 and 14, that's when you're in the first group, then 4 to 7, then 1 to 3. And then it's got the Wailing Doom shooting and melee. And with melee, it has Piercing Strike and Sweeping Blow. And with Sweeping Blow, each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So that's pretty cool. It basically gives you some options when you're attacking. Unless you have to choose which one you're using, as far as like equipment. That I'm not sure on. I think you just have to choose which attack it's doing, because it should have both the melee and the long range. Let's see, just seeing if anything else stands out as something new that we haven't seen already. All right. So I'm just looking at the Guardian Defender, see if it doesn't say anything about that, token piece. So I'm guessing that it's just there for the sake of using it as an objective marker. And other than the Corsairs, which I skipped over, I'm not seeing anything else that stands out as anything new that we haven't seen. then we go into our weapons profile section. And then our points values for each unit. And then points values for Harlequins specifically. And from what I understand, Harlequins are actually going to get their own codex later. I don't know if that's true or not. I know that they did in the past, so I assume that they would get their own separate one. And then we go into a glossary section and the Asuryani reference, and then reference for Harlequins as well. So definitely very cool. I love just the sheer amount of lore that they're including with these. I'm hoping that we continue to see the codices going forward that are just going to be that thick with so much lore to read, because so many of these factions just have such a rich history that it's always fascinating to get to read about those ancient battles and how they got to where they're at now and things like that. And so I'm hoping we get to see more like this. But that's it for tonight, everyone. Thank you as always for watching, and I hope you have yourselves a great night. Thank you.